All right, welcome back. It's now 7:31. Good morning. Welcome back to the program. So we want to take a look at really what is happening. And you know, anytime people are talking about the floods, we tend to take it far away from us. But the reality is it's here with us, and many people get affected. Every year, whenever we have got these kind of calamities, two people will always complain: the common mwananchi and the humanitarian aid office. But then, Member of Parliament of Budalangi constituency, Raphael Wanjala, is here. Budalangi has been on the news for so many years. And right now, he's also here to give us an update of what's really happening on the ground there and what he is doing as a Member of Parliament, as well as other sector players, to give us an account of how the great people of Budalangi are getting help there. But Eric Muturi, what do they? He's been here with us as well for some time. But today, he's here on a different capacity. Part of his family members were affected at the old Maimahio Kijabe incident, yes, that so far has claimed over 60 people. Eric, 60 people may just sound like a number. I would just imagine having a pile of 60 people here. How would that number look like? First of all, my condolences to you for losing your members of families. Eric.
Well, I'll tell you, Victor, when you watch news, and you see a headline saying, 60 people are dead, it doesn't hit home until you're either part of those statistics or those statistics actually affect you. If you go to Kijabi, or rather Maimahio, you'll be shocked that the first thing that meets you as you go up the hill is the stench of death. You can feel, I don't know whether you've ever gone near a morgue the way you feel, a stench stinging your nostrils. That is your first encounter when you go up the Kijabi Hill. That's the first thing that you encounter. And not just to say that the deaths affect you, but what affects you mostly is also to know that you have relatives who could be missing, or rather who are missing, and you're not sure whether they are alive or they are dead. So you're always hopeful that they will be found alive. But at the same time, every time you hear a body has been retrieved, your heartbeat sort of goes up and you want to run and see whether that's your kin. And I can tell you the most horrific thing is to go to the site and find that, these are neighbors you knew, these are friends you knew, this is your mother, and they are all covered in dirt, they are covered in mud. I can tell you it's a grotesque scene. It's a scene that you wouldn't wish on anyone, but the reality is that that is where we are. And Victor, one of the most surprising things is that when you think about how that water broke and you go to the hill, you can see as if the hill has been shaved. The way you see there are trees on this side, there are trees on this side, and then there is a pool of mud on one side. And the width of that area is just less, say from the hill is less, the water took a space of just less than 1 kilometer. So you can imagine that is the width of the water. When you go downhill, you can see that the water came with bricks of, tons of bricks and stones, almost 20-ton stones that were not there before. In fact, you go there, you imagine it was a quarry. And you can imagine water that had the capacity to carry something of 20 tons. You think about a trailer, a whole trailer being carried by water, and not just one, multiple of them. And you go to a place and you realize that, actually it's a flat land full of rocks, but people used to live there. Someone says, this was my bedroom, this was my sitting room, and you can't even put the picture to mind. The water flattened the whole place. It's a devastating scene. There is a memorial service that is happening on Thursday for all the victims and for those of us who lost relatives in the place, led by His Excellency the President. But as early as tomorrow, the government has allowed us to go and bury our kin.
Okay. I'll come back to you later on, Eric. Mheshimiwa, Budalangi has been on the news for years, and this year is no different. Why so?
First of all, I want to send my condolences and to those ones who lost lives.
Yeah.
It's quite unfortunate what happened. For us, we have lived with these things. It's very devastating. Just as Eric said, until it hits you. Us, we people in Budalangi and people in Nyando, we have suffered, and we are still suffering. Even as we are talking, we are submerged. But it is not coming out so much because we have no shares in the current government and even in the previous governments. That's why you find it's not coming out. We have been submerged from the onstart of these rains. We were underwater. We have asked for National Youth Service. We never saw them. We asked for army to come out, ask the president, please release army to come and help our people. We have not seen them. And to surprise you, Budalangi, we have a barracks. We have a barracks within Budalangi, but they have never come out to help these people. But where there are shareholders, you will see them being told now, come out, help people, do this. Budalangi, since 2019, many people still stay in camps because their homes are still submerged till today. Houses collapse and what have you. Thank God, this time it has hit shareholders using the money for affordable housing.
Yes.
I pray that they extend it to people of Nyando, to people of Budalangi, because they have no houses. They have collapsed. They have stayed in those tarpaulins that were provided by Red Cross. They are torn. The rain is raining on them. Even in Budalangi, once the school is collapsed by floods,
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
You have to use your little CDF to bring it back. Nobody will come for you. Same to Nyando. And this is the problem we have in Kenya, and that is why, Victor, this tribalism is brought by leaders on top.
Yeah.
Because when others are suffering, they are not attended to. And when others suffer, they are attended to. You ask why? They are shareholders. This is the problem. We must vote for our own. So sometimes they may not vote for somebody who qualifies, who knows the work. But because of the experience that when we have a problem, the government does not come to our aid because none of our person is up there. I was just wondering, you see, like the other day, Deputy President immediately went the following day. President went, he has gone, he has even prayed for the people. The people of Nyando, people of Budalangi, underwater, till today they have not seen any government official. Even the small things they are supposed to do, they have not done them. We have asked, please give us army to help our people. They have not come. So it's a very painful situation, but it's unfortunate my brothers and sisters have experienced it. That is what we have gone through for years. You find even putting dams on those rivers so that we get enough electricity. It cannot be done because we are not shareholders.
What is the direct
And they go and dam rivers that do not even produce water.
Mheshimiwa Wanjala, do you have statistics of what has happened in your constituency? Schools affected, how many pupils affected, families?
Yes.
What's the number?
In Budalangi, we are more than 25,000 people affected by floods. Budalangi is on a lowland, been affected by 3 types of waters. We have backflow from Lake Victoria, which has affected the whole region within Lake Victoria zone. I just came from Entebbe yesterday.
Yeah.
Even and Kampala and Jinja, even some hotels are flooded. Those along the lake. In fact, there is a place from Entebbe to Kampala, the water is now almost up the road. Now, so we get floods from the backflow from Lake Victoria because it is now full to capacity. Now, we get floods from rainwaters, from the hills, and those areas that are flat, they remain there. Because, you know, the dikes cannot allow those waters from the hills now to run into the river. So they have to stay with us. Now, we have waters from Yala Swamp, from Yala River, that flows direct into the swamp. We are unable to control it. We are unable to control it. The government has not come to find out how they can control it, because even we asked them to do a causeway at Dogoe, Useng area, so that the water can now run into the lake, because the water does not go into the lake, instead it flows into the swamp, and that also affects the people of Budalangi. So those are the three types of floods we get.
Eric, when you hear Mheshimiwa Wanjala talk, he seems helpless. There's a barrack in his constituency in Budalangi, but the people of Budalangi are not getting that aid from the army. I don't know, what about you?
I think, Victor, when Mheshimiwa is complaining, we, the common folk, must be perishing. Because, you know, I imagine he has the wherewithal to mobilize resources. And, you know, the best I can do as Eric is to take a placard and buy a felt pen and write and say all manner of things and hope that day that the media will cover. So I feel like we are in a state where things are not okay. But what specifically perturbs me is not necessarily that we have flooding, nor the fact that we've had droughts, or the fact that we also came from a locust invasion. You remember a former cabinet secretary telling us to eat them if there are too many. But what perturbs me mostly is that even where government knows something is about to happen, they do not take remedial actions to either mitigate or ensure that the effects are lessened. For instance, since I was a young kid, I've always heard about Budalangi. In fact, if a song was to be produced about Budalangi, it would be a hit. You know, they gave us one lady who, every season, we could see her on TV saying Serikali's idea. So it's not that the government is not aware. When you look at Kijabi, you'll be shocked that a few days earlier, you know, government officials had visited the site, and they had seen how dire the situation could be, where the water that was being held back by the embankment were to spill over. If you look at a government agency like Kenha and Kura, they always inspect their roads. You know, they will periodically issue alerts and say, you know, this road is impassable, this other road is impassable. But when you look at Kenya Railways, because that was their embankment, and that was their tunnel, so to speak. So the responsibility of ensuring that their railway line was optimal, and a train had passed there a few days before. And when you realize that they knew what could happen, they did nothing to ensure that were anything to happen, they would save the Kenyan public. So when government comes and gives you aid, when the consequences have already occurred, sometimes it feels like an insult. Because you see, it's okay to be assisted, but I am better off sometimes when I am forewarned that a catastrophe is about to happen. Even when I am removed and the catastrophe, so to speak, comes to be, then I have a sense of appreciation. But when I am given aid when my kinsmen are in the grave, that, you know, that token in itself is inconsequential, so to speak, because it cannot bring back lives. So I think there is one, government needs to put its house in order. But secondly, and most importantly, even the way they communicate. You know, I have seen now the president has been going to different places. But remember, when this flooding started, we could not see any government official in sight. And we recall when the meteorological department said there was going to be El Nino. Then they said no, there will be no El Nino, there will be enhanced rains. Then they came back and said no, it will not be enhanced, and until we had a debacle where someone had to apologize one on TV, and the other one had to be put on the spot. And so one arm of the government ends up confusing the other arm of the government. Na unajua wanasema fahari wawili wakipigana, nyasi ndio huumia. And unfortunately we are the nyasi now that tunaumia.
Yeah.
But I think government owes us first an apology, because we have a Ministry of Planning. Ministry of Planning should be aware that this river always overflows. We can bank this. I mean, that's part of planning. But lastly is to say that I love how Mheshimiwa says they are shareholders, and there are people who are not shareholders. But I think what these floods have taught us is that, shareholder or not, the consequences of not planning are the same to everyone.
You know, you're just speaking something. I had Professor Alfred Omenya here yesterday, and he sat where Mheshimiwa is right now. Professor said exactly that the problem we're facing as a country is like we are failing to plan in advance. 90% of what we're going through because of lack of proper planning. I would imagine drought is coming. So what are we going to do with the running water right now, Mheshimiwa? What are you going to do with that?
Going west.
Exactly. So who are we to blame? You as leaders in parliament, national government, or the people of Budalangi? Answer that.
True. You know, government is divided into three arms.
Right.
There is executive, there is legislature, and there is judiciary. And each one of them has a responsibility, emanates from the constitution. As parliament, ours is to oversight legislation and representation. Now, we represent people. You will hear Raphael Wanjala crying in parliament. We have been flooded. You know, you are talking of floods today. We have been flooded since 2 years ago, right? Waters from the lake. And nobody's bothered. Nobody, you will never know. Nobody's bothered. But say, people are suffering. Please come, help our people. Where is relief food? They will bring once or twice, they disappear. It remains like that. You are on your own. But I'm happy yesterday, you see, we have been crying, even evacuating people. We use our own resources as leaders.
Yes.
The government is not involved. They don't even bring a lorry. As I have told you, Budalangi, we have barracks there. Now they are promising 10,000 to evacuate people. We don't know whether they will extend it to Nyando and Budalangi, who are equally in dire need of those services. Therefore, as I told you, they hardened our people to be so tribal. And I was just wondering, somebody challenged me yesterday when we were sitting and I was complaining, and now look, these people are being attended to, this. Nobody has gone to Budalangi, nobody has gone to Nyando. Even when they are mentioning the dams, they are not saying how many they will do on River Nzoia, on River Yana, and River Nyando. And even when at Ahero, the road is cut off by floods on a bridge heading to a city, nobody's mentioning.
Yes.
Nobody is bothered. Even, I don't know whether Kenya went there. I still don't know, because we have not told whether they went or not.
As a member of parliament, have you received any communication from the national government?
Nothing, completely. Nothing. We have written letters, we have complained. They have not come.
Have you made a phone call to the offices, relevant offices?
Boss, even yesterday I was in OP. We have a problem. We have a problem, as I told you, that it is leaders who harden the voters now to be so tribal. Then somebody told me, but you know you have Musalia there. Musalia is now the prime cabinet secretary. Equally as shareholder, but who is Musalia there? It's just like a flower girl. Where is he? These people have been in flood for all these years. See, just one day, Gachagua is there. The following day, President is there. So
you seem helpless.
We seem helpless. Not me alone.
Yes.
Those who are not shareholders.
There is a story I read
so
here.
That's why I'm telling you, until it hits them.
That's when you realize.
That's why God is doing all he's doing.
The Parliamentary Committee on Budget has given the government the green light to use 10% of the national budget to assist hundreds of victims affected by floods. The ongoing heavy rains have persisted for days now and claimed over 228 people, and across the country 212,000 people, 618. And now you have that budget committee given that green light. Does it mean that we don't have money set aside for such kind of calamities? That you have to be recalled in Parliament, you're on recess right now. There is no, I believe there is money for emergency, right?
But remember, even, I don't know what was happening, and then they said they have set aside money, and the deputy president was in charge. Where did that money go? I don't know what was happening. It was drought, or what was it? Where did that money go? We have not seen it. In Budalangi, we have been asking for the extension of dike. We just wanted, according to the government estimate, 150 million. Then our people will not be suffering the way they are suffering today. Till today, nobody is responding. We have asked, okay, get money, just NYS have equipment. Please let them come and do the work if you don't want to give it to contracts.
All right.
Till today, nobody's talking. So Eric, we have a problem.
Eric, how are you affected directly or indirectly? The Kijabi issue is saddening, so to speak, the highest, so to speak. How are you affected directly or indirectly?
The first, Victor, is to say, you know, I'm very curious sometimes to know what exactly government is. Because sometimes you
government is amorphous.
Because sometimes you can sit with a government official and both of you are complaining about floods. Both of you are complaining that you are affected. Yet, out here, we are relying on the same, so to speak, government to sort us out. So sometimes it gets a bit confusing on when you say Serikali's idea, are you talking about the executive arm? Are you talking about the judiciary or the legislative arm? Of course, mostly you're talking about the executive. But I want to disagree with Mheshimiwa that, you know, they are helpless, so to speak. And this is the reason. One of the roles of the members of parliament is representation. Wherever I cannot speak, Mheshimiwa should speak on my behalf.
Exactly.
Where I am frustrated, I should channel my frustration to him. Then he must collect our collective frustration and take them to the relevant office. And where that office does not listen to him, the Constitution guarantees him the right to come and collect us, to go and peacefully picket and ensure that whoever is government and is supposed to listen to us, listens to us. Secondly, Parliament has a key role in budget appropriation, even when it comes to issues of flood mitigation and everything. And Mheshimiwa and his colleagues, including the budget committee chair, is it Ndindi?
Ndindi Nyoro.
Ndindi Nyoro.
Yes, you know, Mheshimiwa, they should become your close friends so that as the cake is being cut, you come with your own knife. Because when you rely on their knife, they might shortchange you.
He doesn't have to get a share. You come with your own
he must come with his own knife, given to him by the people of Budalangi to come and cut on their behalf. But you've asked me a question on how I am personally affected. One, I have lost relatives in Kijabi. And these are people that are not coming back. These are people you would visit them, and now you go to those places and you realize that so-and-so used to be there and so-and-so used to be here.
And there is no home.
There's complete, it looks like this table that is here, it's flat, only rocks that came from the hills, Kijabi hills. It's complete. In fact, if someone were to tell you there were houses there, what remains are tiles, fragments of tiles. Everything else in a radius of like 4 kilometers downstream is gone. And the most disheartening thing is that when the waters broke, they did not follow the river channel. Because if they had followed the river, we wouldn't, the catastrophe would have been lessened. But the water diverted from the river into people's homes.
That's why it's called floods.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then it reached a point where the water separated. So you can see there are houses that are standing still. In fact, if you tell people there was flooding there, those people don't understand. Then the waters joined together again at some other juncture and went ahead with the rampage, all the way including up to Maimahio itself. It's a carnage that you would not wish on anyone. You know, when you read sometimes about biblical catastrophes and you read them as stories, and you hear that those people had sins, when you go to Maimahio, you sit back and reflect and ask yourself, could we have really sinned against God that he's he's so vengeful, he has decided to clear the paths on our behalf so that we go back to him. You know, sometimes you read Bible stories until unaenda kwa ground unapata kumbe hii ni ile ilikuwa inasemekana ya Noah.
Okay. Okay.
You know, Eric said that when he is crying and I'm crying and we are helpless, we need to come back and picket and do what? Eric is forgetting that doctors have been picketing. Kenyans are dying. Even if those few people who would have been collected from the flood to go for treatment, they would not have found doctors in hospitals. Nobody is listening to them. Even the president is not talking about them. You know, our whole head of state, 2 months, when hospitals are closed and Kenyans are crying, people are dying, and you don't care. And you know, as he says, when God used to punish people, he was punishing people because of the world or the earth, because of leaders.
Yes.
A leader is making mistake. Now that's why I'm telling you, people Budalangi have been crying year in, year out.
Are you making a mistake?
Vijana.
Are you making a mistake on behalf of people Budalangi? Maybe people Budalangi are suffering because of your mistake, Mheshimiwa.
Then why is he punishing others that are not the really people? Because people of Nyando have suffered, they have cried, people Budalangi have cried. Now they have showed them that, you know, these are also human beings. Can we now also deal with these ones in Madari, in Kibera, in Maimahi, so that you realize that these are also human beings to be helped. So people Budalangi may only get those benefits because of what has happened. But we are still not sure. Just as I say, as he said that, you know, you need to be a friend of Ndindi Nyoro. You know, the budget, first of all, is brought from Treasury. These people are supposed to know which one is emergency, which one is not emergency, which one must we do first, so that when it comes there, you deal with it. But the way these people handle, in fact, what worsened the situation, as he says, for us as legislatures, is this constitution, where ministers are picked from outside Parliament. You know, when we had ministers in the Parliament, you would still immediately take action against this minister in the Parliament, as a Parliament. But today, these ministers are not answerable to Parliament. You can see how Muturi has been talking. Because he has made money, and I'm not sure. You see what the government did by appointing people who voted that Nani should stay in that of the Muturi, and they are the majority. What do you expect the outcome? They will just cleanse Muturi. And this is the problem we go through as a country. Even members are not objective, they are protecting their own. And you will see what will happen. We are waiting. But Kenyans have cried all over what has happened from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Gentlemen, the question here is, the weatherman gave us an alert. And I know this might sound a bit unfair or insensitive, but everybody was given an alert. Budalangi, this perennial. Mheshimiwa, what have you done as a member of parliament to mitigate such kind of issues, knowing very well in the next few months there will be rains? Have you made efforts? Have you built dikes? Have you organized for dams? Eric, the people in Kijabe, did they get that alert so that they could move to safer ground? I know this might sound a bit insensitive, but
Victor,
kindly answer.
the people of Budalangi have been staying in those floods. From 2019, we have been telling government, help people, do this, extend this dike.
You are in a better position, Mheshimiwa.
I am, but do I influence resources? I'm not in executive. The same way, I would not have loved to see doctors on the streets. These are people who got an A. These people frustrating them in offices got C minus. Kasna Kumicha told us what was her grade in high school. And you are talking to people who got an A, who worked very hard,
right,
like you are talking to.
She's not here to defend herself on that.
Yeah, but she should be told. These are people who are taking care of our lives. If she fell sick today, she's lucky. She has not been a minister. She would go to those public hospitals. Today, she's a minister. She can go to Nairobi hospital. She doesn't care. And she represents nobody.
Have your coffee. Have your coffee. Have your coffee. Eric, let's have coffee. it's morning show. Let's take a break. I know what can calm you. She's a Louis, and I know what can calm him down. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. I just want to take a look at really what is happening. We've had this conversation over and over again, and what is going to be the lasting solution to end this kind of perennial problem that we are facing currently. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more.
The Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, ODPC, is the designated government agency mandated to ensure appropriate handling of personal data in Kenya as enshrined in the Data Protection Act, DPA of 2019. In collaboration with the Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner will host the Network of African Data Protection Authorities conference. This event will take place from the 7th to the 9th of May 2024 at the Windsor Golf Hotel and will be graced by His Excellency the President, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto. This event will be live on KBC Channel 1.
I wouldn't pick a fight with me if I were you.
And then in disease from Polamuleti in Juveningam like Muruga.
You know, I'd rather host one of these cats as my roommate instead of you, rich of a man.
Hizi sio za kufuga kondoo. If I don't get my money today, you will know who is the government.
Oh, the puppy actually back. Wonderful.
And no negotiations, okay?
Right, okay, right.
What negotiations?
None of your damn business.
All right, welcome back. We're still having this conversation here. I asked a question, and perhaps I know that was going to sound insensitive, but you know we have to ask those uncomfortable questions. So, Eric, just to ask you as well, the weatherman gave an alert. Why was it so proper for them to move to higher grounds or safer grounds, or what was the best thing the people living around that area would have done to avert that current calamity that we face them?
I'll tell you something, Victor. When you read a book called The Merchant of Venice, one of the quotes that I like a lot is that it is easier to tell 20 people what to do than be one of the 20 to do. It is easier to tell people to move to higher ground. But what is higher ground? You know, even if the government was to issue a press statement and say, you people move to higher ground, one, there is no vacant land in this country that is called higher ground where you should vacate to. I mean, every piece of land, especially in this Nairobi, has been taken legally or otherwise. So even when you are asked to move to higher ground, it becomes amorphous. And so what you find is that even when the population has information, they are limited in terms of their actions. Because, remember, this is a home I have built. I live there with my children. I live there with my wife. I could be having other relatives who live with me. When you tell us to voluntarily move to higher ground, most likely the government means we move to the nearest primary school. And you know, we as human beings have a tendency to wait and see, which is what sometimes government adopts. So unless the consequences come, it is when people, look at what is happening in Mathare right now. People are being forcefully evicted. But what's the reality? The reality is that people are complaining that people are being forcefully evicted. But tomorrow, if the same river were to sweep the same people, again you will still have outcry on why government did not move these particular people. So whether you do or you don't, there are still consequences for you. But meanwhile, someone might sit back and ask themselves, okay, so we are going and demolishing Mathare. That's okay, maybe. Maybe the people of Mathare cannot put up a resistance. But during the former regime, we saw places where apartments had been on the riverine, including some of the estates here in Nairobi.
Yeah.
But why is it easier to go and demolish for the one in Mathare? We know of even some big facilities, I will not mention them, hospitality facilities, built just next to the river here in Nairobi. But why is it easier to go and demolish for the guy in Mathare than to go, because you remember, the guy who is constraining also the river upstream consequentially has an effect on the guy who's downstream.
Exactly.
So why aren't we also dealing with the guy who's upstream and the guy who's ensuring that water is diverted to the places where water should not be?
What should be the lasting solution? Because we will be here again next year. I'll be talking about this, Mheshimiwa, for years to come. What should be the lasting solution, Eric?
If you ask me the lasting solution, we need to take the pain now. We need to swallow painkillers and numb ourselves to the pain and do the right things. What is the right thing? Number one, we must agree that if we have built on the river, like a Tanzanian minister said, the river has a tendency to come back where it belonged. Let us move away from the river, and this will not be voluntary. Number two, we must agree that we must believe more in science than politics. Because what happens is that the scientists will say El Nino is coming. The politicians will say, no, we have prayed, there will be no rain. So we must become a people who, for once, let us believe what the scientists tell us.
What if the politician is right?
Well, he could be right, but at least for now, he's wrong.
Okay. I'm trying to join the dots. Mheshimiwa, what should be the lasting solution? And even as you answer that, what have you done to the people of Budalangi specifically? You know, representation is part of it, and I believe you represent the entire country. You can go to Tana River right now, people are affected. I talked to Nanok, to Kana West. He is in the constituency. He's also affected as we speak. A couple of, Fabian Mule of Kangundo also told me the same thing, that is attending to his people this particular morning. So what have you done to the people of Budalangi in your own capacity?
Now, if I told you what I've done to those people, I will not finish the list, because you see, as I've told you, this water for us in Budalangi or in Nyando, it has not come today. From 2019, we have been under these floods.
Yes.
And if you followed the meteorologists, how they have been telling you people, they have always mentioned Budalangi and Nyando will be flooded. So this water has been coming. Before it goes, another one comes. Before it goes, another one. So it has kept on expanding. So whatever we have done to those people, and we are still doing, my brother, we will not be able to finish the list.
Yeah.
Because you have to be there with the people. I'm only here because I was away.
Yes.
And now that I've come, I want to go to Budalangi.
Yes.
Because I'm briefed on all that is happening.
Do you have...
Right now, the water is too much for our people. It's just too much. But you see now, as I told you, since we are not shareholders, we are not in limelight, that we are actually suffering. And yesterday, if you watched TV and you saw Nyando, and if I showed you in I sent somebody with a drone, all houses, towns have collapsed. Towns, people building permanent houses. You know, as for him, when he said that he can go and pinpoint where the houses were, you know, for us, we can't. Why? Because it is now a lake. It is now a lake. It has turned into a lake. What should be the lasting solution? For Budalangi, on the river Nzoia alone, when I was in the Ministry of Water, we identified 3 places to do damming.
Very good.
And this was in Tongareni. If floods are not in Budalangi, Tongareni will be flooded. We identified another dam in Lugari and another one in Webuye Falls. I saw one of our social media people of Webuye complaining that water is now coming out, it's flooding them. I wrote back, and we told you we do a dam there. Some of you refused. saying they do it in Budalangi where people suffer. Now you see, because River Nzoia, we have contained it, we are only experiencing now water from the lake and water from Yala. Now you are being flooded again. So these areas we identify to do dams. The only solution for us is damming those rivers.
Yeah.
Then we have River Yala, which also requires dam. You know, all the rivers, right from Wasingishu, Cherengani, Mount Elgon, the whole of Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, Kakamega, all those rivers you see on the map, they collapse in one river called River Nzoia. Once they have reached River Nzoia, now they flow one channel to Budalangi. And there's a lot of water. And then we have, on the other side, all from Nandi Hills, Kapsabet, all those places. All those rivers again collapse in one river called River Yala. They all head to Budalangi. And when you are driving downward, Budalangi is right down and very flat. So those are the problems we have until we do damming. But this damming will even help this country because there will be irrigation, there will be electricity production, there will be tourism on it, there will be fishing industry, creation of jobs in the mass. But nobody is bothered. People want things where they can do easily and steal money, like what they did Kimwarere and Aror. Nobody has ever heard that Kimwarere and Aror are causing problems to human beings. But you see how much they are determined, including the head of state, because that is his home. His home. We in Budalangi, we can suffer the way we suffer. They don't care.
I hope that something...
Same to Nyando. You saw the dam in those places of Bomet, the one they are supposed to do. You know, they had mobilized it. Where did it go? It died natural
I just
death.
hope so, Mheshimiwa, that something is going to be done and the people of Budalangi are going to get that help that they so needed. And perhaps you should push even harder that get these dams done. When you're in the Ministry of Water, it's never too late. Your voice is that voice of reason. Something can be done. Eric Muturi, apologies and condolences to the people affected, and even you, Mheshimiwa, people of Budalangi, they are our brothers and sisters affected by the floods. That is just but a small representation of what is happening across the country. Nairobi is affected, Tana River is affected, and other places across the country. You know, sometimes when we come here and talk about politics, we will not understand what they really go through. But Eric has been here before, Mheshimiwa has been here before, and whenever somebody tells you a story, you'll realize that everybody has a personal story to tell, right?
And you know, Victor, I want to quote an infamous politician whose words and consequences we are here today. Do not move the people, move the river. Do not move the people, move the river. Let's take a break. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Victor, before you take a break, it is so serious that cholera is coming in and there are no medical officers on the ground. I don't know how much the people cholera is going to wipe. The government should be in charge. Please talk to doctors and send officers on the ground.
Asante sana. All right, let's take a break. GMK continues after this. Mike Migwi with the entrepreneurship coming shortly after this. Stay with us. Good morning.